Welcome friend to this session of design patterns. In this session we will try to understand what is basically state pattern. We will go through a definition of it and we'll go through a very simple code which will make you understand what is basically state pattern. So yes, again it falls into the category of behavioral pattern because it's related with changing or addressing the behavioral issues of software architecture. State pattern allows an object to change its behavior depending on the current value. So whatever value you have currently, right, it will change its state accordingly. For example, if your current value is out of stock, that means that you need to put more products into your godown. If the current value is overstock, then you need to stop putting more products into your godown. So means what? That depending on what the stock level is, the action takes place. So if you have such kind of project scenarios where your action takes place depending on the current values, then you need to use state patterns. Again, don't get carried away with state patterns. It's possible that you can implement simple logic and complete your project. So try to see that, is your project driven with too many states? Is it that you have a lot of states and then a lot of transition and a lot of events? Then you go for a state pattern. Here's a simple example which will demonstrate what how exactly state pattern works, or how exactly when should we use a state pattern. We have a situation when if where we have a bulb. If it is on and you press a switch, it will become off. If it is off, you press a switch, it will become on. So depending on the current condition, the next action is decided and the next state is decided. So if a project is having state and transition and a next state and transitions and a lot of states and transitions, if you visualize that there are more than probably 5 or 6 states and a lot of complicated transitions, use state pattern. Or else I really suggest go for some simplified methodology, some simple logic which you can use custom and try to solve a problem. So here's I have implemented the same bulb on and off state pattern. What I've done is that I've just defined a bulb state here. Okay, there's a press switch method. So if the bulb state is off, it just makes it on. If it is on, it just makes it off. And then at my client, I just press my switch. If I press my switch when it is on, it will make it off. If I press my switch when it is off, it will make it on. So it will just toggle in between both of these states. What we can do is that we can make a code walkthrough of the same thing which we discussed. So here's the same bulb example. I have a CLS state. I have defined a enum with my states on and off. And on every press switch, I just toggle. So if off, make it on. If it is on, make it off. And then on my client code, the press switch button just calls the press switch. And depending on the current situation, the state operates. So if I run it, now it is on. So the next state is off. If it is off, the next state is on. So you will use state patterns when you have multiple states, multiple transitions, and the transitions are very complicated. For example, you can probably use state pattern for a complicated dialer, or a complicated phone dialer, where you say, okay, the phone is in a state of ringing. After ring state, it will probably go on a state of the guy picks up the phone, so phone pickup. And after pickup phone state, the guy can probably go to a hang up. After the hang up, it can go to answering machine. So you have states, and the phone actually switches between these states depending depending on the current values. The phone switches the states. So what's happening is, if your project is state driven, depending on the current values, it is driving into one state to other state and from other state to other state, then it's better to use state pattern. So I'm sure that this examples, the simplified examples of state pattern would have cleared your fundamentals of state pattern. uh, the examples which I have showed is very much theoretical, but you know uh, if you can visualize your projects with multiple states and multiple transitions, then try to implement state patterns, because uh, the examples were kept simplified because for the only one reason is you can get the concept well. Because putting in examples which are probably more complicated, like the phone one which I discussed, or the stock level, it will probably complicate the learning more, the the video tutorial more complicated. So what I've done is I've made it in a very simplified format, and I hope that this tutorial was helpful to you. If you have any doubts, you can mail me at shiv_kweral@yahoo.com.